Nerdrotic.com.
Welcome back to Nerdrotic Daily. My name is Gary Beekler, and I come to you from Nerdrotic.com, Nerdrotic on YouTube, Nerdrotic Daily, and Nerdrotic Live. And today we're going to talk about something that used to be very close to my heart, something I was the most fond of. It was my ultimate passion outside of my wife. It was the thing that carried me through some very hard times. It was the thing that taught me how to read. It was the thing that set me on my journey to be the nerd I am today. Everything you see in this room is because of these little things right here called comic books that are on my spinner rack. And yes, it led me to own a comic store for 10 years. And hell, I might own another one sooner than later. But one thing I won't be doing is selling new comics. I won't be selling new Marvel and DC comics because I no longer read Marvel and DC comics. And the reason I no longer read Marvel and DC comics, besides the fact that they are just crap right now, Cal Arts art and fanfic writing, is the treatment of the paying customer. Something the quote-unquote creatives of the comic book club that used to be an industry don't feel they are accountable to. But they are. They're accountable to comic book shops. They're accountable to Marvel. They're accountable to DC. They are accountable to the paying customer, especially when they display their political bigotry. And here is another example of it from one Vita Ayala. Now, she gets a lot of work, and you would think she's a talent on the level of Alan Moore, Frank Miller, Roger Stern, or Roy Thomas, when she's actually your garden variety average fanfic writer. And as I've said, the comic book industry has been the proving ground for Hollywood, and they were the ones who started casting writers and artists instead of hiring them, and she is the best example of this. DC Comics writer Vita Ayala exposes her bigotry, says no cis dudes should apply for associate editor position at Marvel, which I'm sure is a lot of fun working under Vita, making 30 gur a year. Come to New York and work for Marvel. Live on a steady diet of cup of soup with 9 roommates. In a studio apartment, Ayala's comments came in response to former Marvel.com writer Angelique Roche's sharing a link to an associate editor position for Marvel.com. The job description, which has now been removed. Well, obviously they had to remove it and edit it because there's a glaring omission. White dudes who like girls need not apply. Marvel Entertainment is seeking a pop culture expert to join Marvel Digital Media in the role of an associate editor, responsible for the creation and curation of content on Marvel.com. The associate editor must be an expert in the Marvel Universe with deep knowledge of Marvel characters across comic books, video games, and more, in addition to the larger universe of fandom. Larger universe of fandom? As long as that larger universe doesn't include cis white dudes. Black and brown people, especially femme people, please apply. In the follow-up tweet, Ayala wrote, "The fact that people are angry that I tweeted that black and brown people should apply and call it racism is funny and sad at the same time. I don't find it funny. I'm not angry. You're just exposing yourself. This is a lot of projection here, lady. I hope they figure themselves out soon because they are only telling on themselves with that nonsense." My God, that is a clinical lack of self-awareness. However, Ayala would make her bigotry and prejudice against cis dudes clear in a separate tweet. She wrote, "Black and brown people, queer people, people that are not cis dudes, and any combo of the above. If you are even a little curious about being an associate editor for Marvel, click through." This is wholesale bigotry, and it's being rationalized through the term equity. Now, we're seeing this with every corporation that probably has rules on the books that prohibit them from discriminating against individuals. I give you the state of California and their hiring practices. Back in 1996, they passed Proposition 209. The state shall not discriminate against or grant preferential treatment to any individual or group on the basis of race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin in the operation of public employment, public education, or public contracting. In 2020, they tried to strike that language from the Constitution with Proposition 16, which failed. And believe me, I am as surprised as anyone that it did, but I don't think it will in the future, unless people like John F. Trent Bounding Into Comics, yours truly, and many others keep calling it out. In a moment of sheer irony, Ayala then accused her critiques of bigotry while doubling down on her own. She tweeted, "Bigots loathe the idea of black and brown people, queer people, non-cis dude people, and any other intersection of the above apply for this job. Except who's the one being exclusionary? I hate to break this to you, Vita Ayala, but you are the bigot in this story. And none of this matters anyway. Nobody gives a crap about this job, and I don't care who really gets it. The comic industry is brain dead, and it's being kept alive on life support. And the only reason the corporate overlords are doing that is to maintain the intellectual property. And they don't really care what someone like Vita Ayala does. She has the kind of power Frank Miller and John Byrne would have killed for, but for a fraction of the price, because the Vita Ayalas of the world come cheap. And I'm not sorry if I burst your bubble, because your corporate overlords do not care about your cause or your equity, only the equity of their bank accounts. Now, to clarify something, when I'm talking about the comic book industry, I'm talking about the American comic book industry. You know, the one that has to resort to lies and manipulations, multiple variant covers, conflating the numbers with manga and children's books like Dog Boy or Captain Underpants. That industry. Well, I'm not sorry to see it go, although I thought it would be. And this is where I would like to thank the Vita Ayalas of the world, the Kelly Sue DeConnicks and the Mark Wades, for making this very easy. Now, there's still a giant audience out there for comic books. Unfortunately for the American comic book industry, it's being eaten up by manga. There's also a very healthy independent sphere, and back issue sales are through the roof, and it's not just speculators, it's readers. You can still support your local comic book shop. Go hit that dollar bin once a week, and you're going to find something much better than you're going to find on the new release rack. If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, I thank you for listening this long. I will see you in the next video.
Nerdrotic.com. Please subscribe.